Hey guys, it's Jane. It's Friday today, so I'm here for Friday Reads. I'm going to start doing a little bit more of catching up what I've read on the week, as well as just looking at what I'm reading right now. Hopefully that'll mean my monthly wrap-ups can end up being shorter, and that would be a jolly good thing. So, what I've read this week, I finished 3 books this week. I finished The Walter Mosley that I showed you last Friday, When the Thrill Is Gone. I finished the Attica Locke that I showed you last Friday, The Cutting Season. And I also finished Moon Over Soho, which is the second Ben Aronovich, Peter Grant urban fantasy book. The first book is either called Rivers of London or Midnight Riot, depending on where you are. I read the first one of those a couple of weeks ago, and it was fine, but it wasn't great. I had some problems with it, but I read the second one and I enjoyed the second one a lot more. So I'm glad I pushed through with the second one. I'll definitely be continuing on with that series. The other 2 that I read, When the Thrill Is Gone, The Walter Mosley, that one was not such a win for me. I wrote a review of it on my Goodreads, so if you're really interested, to go and check that out. I don't want to slam it too badly, because the reality is I was coming in on the 3rd book in a series, and sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you come in the middle of a series, but I have a feeling that in this one it really did, so I probably should not have started there. The one that I really want to tell you about is The Cutting Season by Attica Locke. I read her first book a little while ago, and that was a ripper. That was set in the 80s. That was a mystery, a murder mystery. The issues that it was dealing with were all about the civil rights movement and the aftermath of the civil rights movement for people who had been involved in it. This one is set in the present day. Barack Obama is the president of the United States in this novel, The Cutting Season. It's set in Louisiana, and it's about slavery. That's the issues that it's dealing with. The central character, Karen, is a descendant of slaves. She actually lives and works on the grounds of the plantation that her ancestors worked on. For reasons which become apparent during the story, a particular ancestor, great-great-great-grandfather, who was named Jason, was living there at the time of the Civil War. And he actually stayed on as a free labourer after the Civil War. He'd worked there as a slave beforehand, and he stayed on cutting cane afterwards. And Karen's family have just maintained their connection with this place the whole way through the history. She actually grew up there. Her mother was the cook for the family in the big house when she was a kid. The big house has nowadays is no longer the family home. It's now a reception centre, and the whole sort of setup is a kind of tourist historical reenactment place. There are actors who daily play out a retelling of the Old South, and Belleve's role in that. The actual plantation itself, the cane plantation, sugar cane, is still being worked. It's still sugar cane land, but it's no longer worked by slaves. It's no longer even worked by field workers who are local. Almost all of the field workers now are people who come in, Latin American workers who come in, many of them undocumented workers who come in. And there's some really interesting stuff that the story does and looks at with the connection between the position of these current field workers with the slaves who were there generations ago. The other thing this story really brings up is some really interesting wrestling with the ambiguous relationship that people in the South have with their history, both white folk and black folk, and the relationship that they have with this really fraught history. Apart from all of that stuff, which is really beautifully done and really thought-provoking, the mystery itself is so well written. I really didn't pick it until we were pretty much right at the moment when everything goes south. Because the guy who turns out to be the bad guy is not the guy that you thought it was going to be. And yeah. Now, the two things that I'm reading at the moment are this one. I'm 3/4 of the way through this one, Out for Blood, S.J. Rose. And this is another one of those ones that has different names in different places. I think this is called On the Line or something in some other places. I get so confused and annoyed. Why can't they just pick a name and stick with it? It makes everything so much harder. This is the second one of the Lydia Chin, Bill Smith mysteries that I've read. The first one that I read, Lydia Chin was the point of view character and Bill Smith was kind of a secondary character. In this one, Bill Smith is the point of view character and Lydia Chin is a secondary character. And that's a kind of interesting dynamic. I don't know that I've seen that before, where alternating books from the different person's point of view, but I kind of like it. I don't know whether that's more generally the case or whether this is just an exception. There is a lot of these books. This is number 10 or something, but her publishing history is really, she's changed publishers and got different deals at different points. Not all of these are actually available in Australia. I think this is actually a series where I haven't had any trouble dropping in partway through. So I haven't read the earliest ones because I just can't get my hands on them. This is a traditional sort of mystery. It's contemporary, but a traditional sort of mystery. When I finish it, I might tell you a little bit more about it. The other thing that I'm reading at the moment, drum roll please, I have just started. Can I actually get this so that you can see it? I've just restarted The Brothers Karamazov, although this one is not called, can you see? This translation, the translator has decided not to call it The Brothers Karamazov, but The Karamazov Brothers. I've gone all out and I did some research and I found a different translation to the translation that I've tried before. So I've read good things about this translator. It's Ignat Avsi is the name of the translator. And this is published under the Oxford World Classics imprint. So far, so good. I'm enjoying it. I always enjoy it, and then I just run out of puff before I get to the end. So this time I am really, really hoping to read it the whole way through. So if you could, if you want to send your positive vibes my way, conquering Dostoevsky could happen. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that's it. That's me. Hey, why don't you tell me what you're reading at the moment? I'd love to hear. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.